Dear friends, welcome to this new video capsule. Today, we continue to explore our inner garden from the angle of the interior reform, so dear to Mary Paul and therefore to every Knight of Mary. We talked last week of the importance of encouraging others, as well as developing a love of work. Today, we will look together at 3 other examples of virtue, whose practice particularly helps us to become more and more like Jesus and Mary Paul. Cultivating the virtues in your inner garden is a job that requires perseverance and discipline, just like the maintenance of a vegetable garden outside. Several months of care, watering, weeding, protection against wild animals, etc. are needed after sowing our garden, in addition to the help of the elements of nature, before even arriving at the garden well stocked with vegetables. In the same way, it takes time and dedication to develop virtues. Thus, to develop patience, first, you have to take the firm decision to practice it every day and then be faithful to your plan. For example, when you're hungry at 5 o'clock in the afternoon and your mom or dad tells you that dinner will be ready only in half an hour, there is a great opportunity here to practice patience. You only need to refrain from complaining, to accept that you are hungry, and, if necessary, you can either offer to help in the preparation of the meal or keep yourself busy with another useful task. Here the principle of attention also applies. If you think about the love you have for your parents, you will be happy to be patient. If, on the other hand, you only think of the hunger you feel and therefore you are a little selfish, it will be difficult to be patient and keep smiling. Do not get discouraged, however, because practicing patience takes patience. To learn a virtue is a little like learning to play a musical instrument. Even if, after some time, we can master a few parts, sometimes we still play false notes. It is then necessary to start again with confidence, knowing that it is through practice that we improve ourselves. We practice interior reform out of love of God and neighbor. The more our inner garden is in order and the richer it is in flowers and fruits, the more we draw God into us and the more our neighbor will find it pleasant to be in our presence. In fact, to use the same example, if we are able to wait for dinner time with a smile, we spare the others our unpleasant mood and we promote peace and a good mood in the house. Now, to act for God and our neighbor is also to our greatest advantage. First, developing the virtues gives us self-control. This allows us to not act rashly under the effect of an impulse or a passion. Virtues give us the freedom proper to the children of God. After all, who wants to live as a slave of his impulses? And secondly, whatever the situation, there is always more happiness to give than to receive. This is so because we were created by God and the Immaculate to become love as they are love. And it is only love that gives happiness. To be happy, you have to love. Thus, every time we practice giving of ourselves in a task, a sacrifice, a prayer, by the acceptance of a cross, etc., we allow divine love to inhabit us a little more and happiness to grow to the same extent. This is why Mary Paul writes, "To give of oneself is to receive twice as much. We receive happiness when we give of ourselves." and she specifies in particular that true happiness does not consist in taking possession of or receiving everything in thinking only of oneself. Thinking only of oneself is selfishness, and selfishness is one of the weeds that must be fought against with great courage and tenacity. The best way to fight it is once again to ignore it. In other words, not to think only of oneself first, but to think of others first. If all the virtues complement each other and constitute together a beautiful garden, well flowered, one virtue is often said to be more important than the others, and that is humility. Mary Paul says that humility is the ground on which rest all virtues. So, in our image of the garden, it is not a flower, but it is the fertile soil on which the other flowers grow. Moreover, for those who are interested in the origins of words, humility comes from the Latin word humus, which means earth or soil in English. Being humble does not mean to depreciate oneself and think we are not as good as others. Being humble means above all not to think you are better than you are and not to think of yourself superior to others. Humility is to recognize that we do not know everything and that we cannot do everything, that we need others and that we need God above all. To be humble is to live constantly seeking the divine light that shines through all creatures and all life's events. To be humble is to prefer God to oneself by living, in particular, the giving of self. To be humble is also to acknowledge one's wrongs, everyone has them, and to accept to ask for forgiveness or to receive corrections by listening carefully to the good advice we are given. Humility invites us not to try to always be right in conversations, nor to continually put oneself in the forefront by speaking only of our own talents and achievements. To be humble for you children is also knowing how to obey your parents without complaining. Dear friends, interior reform, just like the upkeep of a beautiful and large garden, is an ongoing task and it lasts a lifetime. There is always room for improvement of one or other of the virtues, and there will always be faults to fight against and uproot. What is important in this great and beautiful project of holiness is to keep a beautiful simplicity by remaining attentive to providential events, which guides us in this inner work, knowing that the grace of the moment is always there to help us take the next step. Thank you so much for your attention. In the next video, we will focus on the very important help Mary Paul can give us every day in our walk to God. I now give you my blessing. May all the divinity bless you and all the ones you love, the Father and the Son, the Mother and the Daughter, in the unity of the Spirit. Amen.